sexy on Secular Sexuality.
Hello, and welcome to Secular Sexuality. Megan is out this week, so I will be your host, Christy Powell. You may recognize me from literally every other episode, but I am Secular Sexuality's resident sex therapist, educator, and haver.
Would you say you're a sexpert?
I would not. I would intentionally, definitely never say that out loud, but I appreciate you saying it about me. Feels good. Feels good.
Right, I like it.
Joining me, of course, is the ACA's very own Eric Murphy.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me on, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate
also
you
known
jumping
as
in.
the voice of the intro.
Voice
The
of
voice
secular
of
sexuality.
Oh, yeah.
It's good. It's good.
I love being on. Every single time you invite me, I get so excited. So I'm ready.
Excited? Yeah,
Yes.
this is the right show for that. And back again for the very first time is Thomas Westbrook of Holy Kool-Aid fame. Howdy, and thank y'all so much for joining us.
Thanks for letting me come talk about sex.
Yeah, hey. You may recognize that this is our first ever dudes only episode of Secular Sexuality.
Well, I've heard nobody ever wanted to hear what dudes had to say about sex. So,
I think it's more that they're just goddamn tired of hearing what dudes have to say about sex. We've been kind of dominating the conversation for like 6,000 years or so. So it's a nice opportunity to, give some voices to other people. But I also think that we have a little bit, maybe a little bit of apologizing to say, maybe at least a little bit of acknowledging some of that extra volume that we've been afforded for basically all of our lives.
It's going to be like a bros night.
Bros night, yeah.
I don't know. I feel like my whole life is an apology. I work on it every day, I promise.
Were you ex-Catholic or no? Okay, yeah, all right.
It's like I apologize after every sexual encounter anyways, so.
Wait, you don't?
Okay, so this is about right, yeah. Well, that being said, the idea for tonight's episode kind of came to me recently when my girlfriend went out of town for a week, and we're missing each other, and things have been kind of dialed up to 11 recently. It's a long time to be apart. Those libidos are flaring, and so there's some texting back and forth, and things getting a little steamy, and so then maybe she sends me sort of a provocative picture, and then I say, "That's a really cool picture. Thank you for sending that." And then we both go to sleep, and that's the end of the conversation. And it wasn't until we talked about it later that I realized that I have been trained over and over again that guys are these like sex-craved monsters that are just always wanting to look at naked pictures, and women, of course, are genteel angels that would never have that kind of interest.
Yeah, she wanted nudes too, man.
She did.
She
absolutely did. And it only occurred to me, I mean, here I am doing this show every single week, and I am still, even if I don't believe them, somewhere inside of me are all of these false beliefs about how women don't crave sex, about how, more vanilla people don't have any libido, about how, this was a big one growing up as a Christian, that men are the visual creatures, that men just can't help themselves when they see something sexual, whereas women just want to be held and touched and cuddled. And I am here to
be cuddled.
Yeah, well, who doesn't?
I mean,
who doesn't?
Right.
But the idea here is that women like sex too.
Yeah.
Women like looking at naked people too. Now, I think plenty of women out there are maybe sick and tired of getting unsolicited pictures of dicks in their text messages. But that doesn't mean that in a relationship, somebody wouldn't want that. And I had to acknowledge and admit to myself that, man, I believed that bullshit without even really necessarily realizing that it was kind of buried in there. So that's what we're going to be talking a little bit about this week, is just those things that were drilled into us, just really beaten into us.
I'm going to take this really heavy, really fast, but if women didn't like sex too, wouldn't we have pretty much weeded ourselves out or naturally selected for rape?
I mean, that is a very interesting question, and one that we are going to try and look at. But it's definitely what we call kind of the standard narrative. You know, we talked to Dr. Hector Garcia recently about sort of the evolutionary aspects of our psychology, of our sexuality.
I was really excited when you had Hector on.
It was a good time.
Oh
it was so much fun getting to just pick the brain of two doctors. I mean, here I am with no business in that conversation asking two PhDs about bukkake in front of a live audience.
Oh, that is a dream come true.
That is absolutely.
I love it, dude. That's
my career.
right there.
Yeah, my career is peaked basically.
Just done.
So for the rest of the show, I'll basically just be coasting.
So your career is not the only thing that's peaked.
Oh, there it is. There it is. I knew we were going to get that single entendre
That's
in
why
as
you
soon
have
as
me.
possible.
That's why
we have him here.
Yep.
So we would love to hear sort of your maybe male confessions or honestly some things that we may even still have these blinders to. I mean, all three of us are active, aggressive, professional atheists.
Yeah.
And yet, with all of that progressivism, there's still a lot of decoding and a lot of bullshit that we maybe hold on to. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. I do want to take this time to acknowledge the flurry of activity when I came into the studio tonight. There was so many people running around, so many people getting pumped and prepped and ready for this Saturday's Atheist Day. Eric, can you tell us a little bit more about that and we'll run the video?
Yeah, sure. So this Saturday, it is this Saturday. Whatever you're doing this Saturday, stop.
Don't
cancel
do that.
Get your ass to Austin. Come and join us. There are so many people who are going to be here. We're going to have Jim Helton, Aaron Ross, Seth Andrews. We're going to have
you.
And you. And we're going to have representatives from Foundation Beyond Belief, from the FACT group, from Haiti. People coming up from Haiti. We have, I mean, it's going to be phenomenal. Tracy Harris is going to be speaking. We're going to be at the Capitol. It's going to be International Atheist Day. International Atheist Day. It's the first, and we even put together that ad. So around the world, secular groups are gathering this March to celebrate the first International Atheist Day. While we encourage atheist groups to come together and celebrate, we invite you to join us. Because lacking religion does not constitute hate. Because in many parts of the world, disbelief can have tragic consequences. Because it's time to create an international community. Because where we can be counted, we should. Stand up this March 23rd and join us as we demand to be counted. Yeah, no illusions. Gonna be there. Oh my gosh, and it's gonna be emceed by some Amish guy.
Yeah,
dude, I'm stoked.
Hey,
yeah, Jamie is going to be emceeing the whole event.
Oh, so Jamie's an Amish guy?
Have you seen?
I mean,
his
did
beard?
you see that headshot? Which, by the way, just some nice headshots, gentlemen. Y'all, I need to step it up. Get a little more
CGI. You do it all in post.
All right.
Don't worry.
Okay, everything's in post.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I also want to make sure to mention that if you did not recently get a copy of an email from this gentleman over here, our newsletter for March did just come out. We want to encourage everybody who hasn't signed up to go ahead and check that out. It's a really good time. Secular Sexuality's got a monthly column and all kinds of other great contributors, so definitely take a look at that. And then, finally, we want to just remind everybody that the American Atheist Convention is coming up.
Yes! Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's the magazine.
There's that magazine.
And, you know, if people haven't signed up, all they have to do is go to aca.activehosted.com/f/1, or we can pop the link up elsewhere. But
we're going to pop that link up elsewhere.
Well,
as you were saying it. We'll make sure to check back for the after episode footnotes, and we'll make sure to get that in. American Atheist Convention coming up April 19th through 21st. We're going to be there. We'd love to have you join us.
Yes.
All right. So beyond that, we've got a few folks that have been waiting on hold for a few minutes already. We're going to go ahead here in just a moment and jump on the phones. All right, Julie, you are on the air with Secular Sexuality.
Hi.
Hi, Julie.
Hey, what's on your mind tonight?
Okay. So I have 3 children, ages 12, 7, and 1. And my 12-year-old just told me a few days ago that she is questioning her gender and would like to use the she, her pronouns, but only in safe places because my ex, her dad, is still a fundamental Baptist Christian. And I'm just looking for advice because I'm still very new to the LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything.
No, absolutely. That sounds a little intimidating, terrifying even. I don't know necessarily what the relationship with dad is like or whether there's a safety there. I mean, it's one thing to disagree. It's another to be an asshole. It's another on top of that to be a violent asshole. So let's very much hope that that's not something that you're looking at. But I think that it makes sense, even at that young age, for there to be a little bit of code switching, you know, that sort of internalized idea in your child that some things are accepted in some places and not in others. And it's terribly unfortunate. I want to be very clear that we would never ask her to do that, but it may be the reality of the world in which she lives in. How safe do you feel? What has been the feedback from dad, or is there not yet any?
He was abusive towards me. So, just because I wasn't normal.
Sure.
And,
what do you mean by that?
He was, psychologically and mentally and verbally and financially abusive.
What was his definition of normal?
I don't know.
Just that super conventional submissive woman.
Yes. I guess that's what he would consider normal. Like, the typical, what are those movies? Those Christian movies where, like.
Basically anything starring Kirk Cameron after 1992.
Hallmark Channel.
Nice.
Herself when she goes out with her friends and the dads have to take care of the kids, and it's kind of like this Christian comedy. Well, those women would be a little too dramatic for him.
Wow. Okay. So, yeah, it sounds like there are some very real fears, and that's a terrifying situation to be in. So I want to couch everything that I might recommend in making sure that safety comes first. You know, I would hate to ever ask a 12-year-old to stifle their expression in any kind of way, you know, whether that's, you know, learning the barriers around wearing goth makeup to school or like interacting with that sort of dynamic. This is far beyond that in terms of the risk that's taken on. And so I got to say that's really devastating. At the same time, I would suggest to you that it's not abnormal or unhealthy at age 12 to be really bringing these types of things up. It's not uncommon, and it's not a sign of a real problem. It is uncomfortable just because of the circumstances that surrounds her situation. So, you know, there are books I might recommend. One we've talked about a lot on this show is How to Understand Your Gender by Meg John Barker. I think that might be something useful for you to get a lexicon, you know, how to have that verbiage on how to have those conversations. I would also point you towards Sex Positive Families, an organization that we've hosted here on the show that has some incredible resources and lists of books and all kinds of wonderful information about how to be having those conversations with kids. But I want to again say that the most important thing is that she feels safe. And if you can establish that safety, then there's going to be a lot more opportunity for expression and exploration and, you know, bringing these things to light. And it may come to find out that, you know, trans female is not the right label. That may not be their identity, but that might be a place to start as, you know, these things are fluid and as people are developing, beginning to understand them a little bit better and giving her a chance to explore that.
Okay.
Well, one thing I've noticed too is that oftentimes kids know almost instinctively when there are areas and places that are not as safe and open to express themselves. But if you give them, if you give them an outlet, you know, say at home or when you're in this environment or that environment to explore and be yourself and to know that you're loved and you're not judged, then, you know, but your kid may still know that, hey, my dad is not someone that I can do this around. That is a valuable lesson because, as much as it sucks, there are people out in the world who will behave the same way, who are not family, and some of them are violent, some of them are dangerous. And I don't say that to scare you or your child, but it's something that you have to kind of learn, like, places that, and it shouldn't have to be like this, but to give them an outlet where they can express themselves can help your kid to develop and to learn and to grow and stuff in a healthy way that's non-judgmental, but then at the same time know that there's places where, you have to tread softly. You have to be a little bit careful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
I do like that
no,
idea of establishing a safe space, like a particular, we're going to, at home, do all of this and maybe go a little excessive and like kind of get the wiggles out a little bit and just see how that feels. And I guess I would just encourage you to really use language that lets them know that you wish that this was the case everywhere. And when there's opportunity for it, to really encourage it, but also, let them know that this judgment is not because of them. It's not their fault. It's not, something that she did or is. It's just an unfortunate external force, and trying to be very careful about internal versus external right and wrong.
Okay.
Well, I hope all of that helps, and we'll definitely post a link to how to understand your gender, as well as some other resources in the notes. But otherwise, I really appreciate you calling in. I hope that helps, and I guess I would say I think this is a really exciting time in a young person's life, in a parent's life, in a family's life, watching people bloom and become themselves and really express themselves. So there's a lot of excitement there, even if we really want to kind of harp on the safety side of things.
And I guess the only thing that I would add in, first off, you're getting love in the live chat. If you haven't reached out to the ACA online, we do have lots and lots of people who are willing to and happy to talk about issues like this and others. Also, online, there are tons of parent groups of people who are in the same situation, wanting to reach out and kind of get those resources from each other. I highly suggest you check it out, because it may feel very much like you're trying to, wade into this and not exactly knowing which way. But there are people who have forged through this kind of path who might be able to give you advice and share their life experience. And that can be really helpful too.
Yeah, being in community is something we would always recommend. So I hope that ours, I know that ours has a place for you. And so I hope that it's a good fit. And if not here, then somewhere.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling in. You have a great night. All right. Well, we are out of the gates and humming, guys.
All right.
All right. You ready for another call?
If you would like.
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Okay. It was a rhetorical question,
Okay,
guys.
cool.
Yeah. We know whose show this is. Don't tell Megan I said that.
Bathroom and,
It's fine. We don't need you. This is my show. Don't tell Megan.
I'm telling Megan.
All right. Well, hello. Isu, you're on the line.
Hello?
Hey, how can we help you tonight?
Hi there. I've been dating a girl for a few months, and when we first met, she had just started a medication called Accutane. It's a acne medication, and it comes with a lot of side effects.
It really can.
They put, and they put you on Prozac to deal with some of the side effects because it can cause depression, thoughts of suicide. Accutane diminishes libido, and so does Prozac. So we met, and she had just started these medications, and everything was going great for about a month and a half, and then they increased her dosage, and her libido just completely went away.
Yeah.
And so the past few weeks have been really difficult because at first I just felt, like I was being rejected, like she just stopped wanting to have sex. And that was really difficult to deal with. And then we kind of figured out that it could be the medications. And then she was, she was feeling pressure to have sex. And I don't want that. I want her to want to have sex.
Sure.
So it became a real problem in our relationship. And it was, like I said, it's been really difficult. And now we've just kind of agreed, because she's going to get off of the medication in about a month, and I'm just hoping that her sex drive will come back, but it's just been really painful to feel that rejection. You know, we sleep in the same bed. She's really sexy, and I feel bad. Like, I feel like an asshole for wanting to have sex with her, and I would feel like even a bigger asshole if I broke up with her for not wanting to have sex, especially when she's going on this medication that could be the cause.
Okay, well, yeah, there's a lot to break down there. I think the first thing I would really try to emphasize is that there are kind of two problems that we're talking about here. And one may not necessarily be a problem. Her libido is decreased, right? So that is its own separate thing that happened. How she feels about that, how she views that, that is her own situation. That's a completely different circumstance than the other problem, which is how do you deal with it? Right? So that first thing of her libido actually dropping, you know, there may be some value if she's wanting of talking to her physicians, of figuring out, you know, is there a different medication? It sounds like you're already making progress towards tapering off of the medication, and all of that is very true and very important. But I think it's most important to kind of keep those two things separate. Right? It would be great if the people that we wanted to have sex with always constantly eagerly wanted to have sex with us. And it's great work if you can get it, but let's try and make sure that we're keeping that separate from this reality that you feel like you're wanting more sex than you're getting, which is in its own right a problem. I mean, it is a very much a thing to feel concerned about, but in trying to make sure that there's not pressure on her and these other things, I think it's important to recognize that she doesn't owe you sex, she doesn't owe you wanting to have sex, and that is kind of your concern to deal with. That being said, it is a very real concern, and I'm wondering what kinds of things you've been doing to get around it, to what your workarounds look like, and how you've been able to just stay sane in this circumstance.
Yeah, well, it hasn't been easy. You know, we had to start sleeping apart.
You know, we're losing most of what you're saying here. I don't know.
Sorry. So luckily I have a spare room, so we've been sleeping apart.
It sounds like you're down a hallway.
Are you on speakerphone?
No.
Oh.
Did we lose you?
Got better?
Yeah, much better, much better. Okay, so y'all have been sleeping apart for much of this process.
Well, over the past few weeks, when first, I would kind of express that I was in the mood, and she would just not be. It would be clear, and then I would roll over, and I would be hurt, and I would feel rejected, and it would be hard to fall asleep. And so we had to have a few big talks that were really uncomfortable, where we kind of decided that we would just sleep apart sometimes. Like if I was feeling especially in the mood, then it was painful to just lay there next to her. Just all I could feel is like, wow, she doesn't want me. It's just painful. So we sleep apart, and we kind of have an agreement that we're just not going to have sex until she desires it again. And so we're pretending like she's saving it for marriage or something like that.
Yeah, well, I am just coming in as an outsider, but what I have to wonder is if all of this talk about sex, all of this problem solving, all of these discussions and strategies and techniques, if they aren't just really contributing to, oh my God, this is turning into a nightmare, I don't want to be a part of it anymore. If we recognize that our desire to have sex is separate from our sexual actions, the things that we say and do, I don't want you to ever apologize for wanting to have sex by any means. But I wonder if there hasn't already been a hell of a lot of pressure and expectation, and we need to talk this through, and this needs to be fixed. Yeah, I think it's important to recognize that as much as you want to have sex, it is totally okay to have a beautiful, wonderful relationship that doesn't include sex.
Yeah, it's just hard to find my biology and the fact that I've never been in a relationship where my partner didn't want to sleep with me.
Sure.
Well, and it is good that you're talking to her about it. I mean, I know that I didn't go to school for it like you, Christy.
Oh, Lord.
And, well, I'm not you, Thomas. But my experience actually lends to the other side of it. I went on a medication and became non-sexual for the better part of 6-7 years. And the partner that I was with was not as understanding as you. She would yell at me, or she would accuse me of not being attractive to her. And it really became something that screwed me up for years. I'm still working through. So definitely reaffirming your feelings to her throughout this process is something that I would highly encourage you to do, because from my experience, it wasn't that I didn't think that she was attractive. It was that I was a Ken doll, you know? And at first I thought, oh, well, I'm just not in the mood. But after months, then it was like, there's something wrong here. And so the fact that you've, you know, zeroed it down and are working together and have a plan together means a lot. And so I think I've got to commend you for calling in, you know, for wanting to find that solution. That says a lot about you as a partner. And I just kind of want to throw that out there. Good on you, man. And definitely do affirm, you know, that relationship, because especially if it's medication, it's not a not wanting to thing. It's a not being able to thing. And there really is a big difference there.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I appreciate that, and we've had the talk, and I've asked her, like, hey, are you attracted to me? Because she still wants to, like, take showers together, and so it's really difficult to shower with her. And you know, I asked her, like, hey, you know, I'm just curious about this because I've never had it. Like, are you attracted to me? Do you see my body and, like, you desire me? And she's like, yes, I just don't want to have sex, and I can't explain it. And yes, you're attractive. And she says she wants to have sex. And,
oh yeah.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. So talking to a physician, figuring out if there are any biological workarounds around that libido, and then figuring out what your personal workarounds are. I mean, it sounds like, you know, you're saying I want sex, the problem is that, but what's underneath that a little bit? It sounds like a little bit of wanting validation, wanting to feel attractive, wanting somebody to be attracted to you, you know, maybe wanting that physical release, that dopamine rush and everything that goes along with the sexual experience. So that's another part of it. But there are ways to get both of those things and perhaps other things that you're looking for from sex without necessarily having intercourse with your girlfriend. So whether that means that sex for y'all is taking a hot soapy shower and maybe there's touching and everything gets a little steamy, and then if it doesn't lead to intercourse, maybe that's enough, or maybe that is your warm-up to mutual masturbation or some other workaround that's going to feel better. You know, I would just encourage y'all to maybe expand that definition of what quote-unquote sex is, because sex is not just a penis and a vagina, I'm here to tell you.
Oh, yeah.
There are plenty of great ways to have that sexual expression that don't necessarily involve that particular act, whether it's alone, whether it's, you know, maybe she's making it sexy by taking pictures for you for when you're alone. Maybe it is something where, you know, y'all are talking about it and then you're going off by yourself, or maybe it is something completely different that I haven't even thought of. Whatever it is for y'all, there are workarounds.
Using toys.
Yeah, absolutely. A number of different toys. I mean, there are your lotions and potions and
well, and I would say too, it sounds like this hasn't always been the case. It doesn't sound like she is, you know, if my terminology is correct, like asexual. Like, it sounds like she has traditionally had a sex drive in the past, and it's only been recently that that's been diminished. Is that what I'm getting from you? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true. And like it was everything was fine for a few weeks, and then, you know, she even, you know, it was almost too much, you know, when you kind of first meet someone, and, you know, she said that she's very sexual, and and then everything changed when they increased the dosage of that medication.
Because what I've traditionally had in my experience with relationships is that if I'm in a relationship with someone that is absolutely out of this world, super healthy, amazing, the person understands me, they get me, they're there for me, there's an emotional connection, I'm going to try to do anything and everything I can to make sure that relationship lasts and to treat them right and to be there for them. If I'm in a relationship, like I have been in relationships in the past that were much more just about the sex, and when the other person stopped having a sex drive, I was like, okay, well, why am I exclusive in this relationship if it's only about the sex? So that's something you kind of like, I'm not going to advise you one way or another on, but it sounds like this has not been a long time thing. This is not, you're not in a relationship with someone who has no sex drive and has never had a sex drive. You're in a relationship with someone who has a low libido right now, and you're working through that. So I wouldn't lose heart just yet. I would, look at what your different options are. Like they were saying, talk to a physician, see what other medications, she can be on, or if this medication is the right medication at all, as well as look into other ways to get a release, whether it's through playing with each other. I know in some cases people have had open relationships. I am not going to tell you one way or another. That's a very tricky route to take, and that's very personal. But there's a lot of different avenues. I would just be careful with something that is temporary, that has only been kind of a recent development, to really gauge the future of a relationship based off of it.
Yeah, I think that's a good tip.
I also saw in the live chat a comment that I think actually struck me as rather poignant, and that is that with what you've shared, you said it felt like rejection, but based on the circumstances and the communication that you've had, I think kind of a change of outlook, because it doesn't sound like you're being rejected at all. It's a situation that you're going through together, but it's not one in which you're, being rejected as a person as much as a situation and a circumstance that you're working through. The personal side of it is something that you both can forge through together, and I really hope you do. I really hope that it works out, because it's a tough path, and I wish you the best.
Yeah, I might see that opportunity to shower together as her expressing, a desire and an interest and a sexuality for you and towards you. But it can be hard to interpret that if our lens, if our culture, if just the way we view our desirability is whether or not we're getting to have intercourse.
Well, and the same thing can go for guys who are listening, or girls who are having the same issue with a guy, where, maybe the guy isn't able to get hard. Maybe he isn't able to, and it's not that he's not attracted. It's not that he's not into you. It's that, it's a hardware problem.
Yep.
The tyranny of hydraulics.
I didn't think of it that way. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
Rock on.
Yeah, so I hope that helps. I think that this is a great opportunity to expand your repertoire, figure out whether it's dirty text or leaving each other notes throughout the day, or, finding some other form of sexual expression that she's excited about and that she's on board with. And so I guess a little hesitation in like introducing, okay, here's our action strategy, here's our plan for how we're going to fuck more. Good luck with everything. I do know that it's an uncomfortable place to be, and sometimes very physically uncomfortable.
Yeah. Ooh, one more. Okay, sorry.
Yep.
This is a good time to find different ways to be romantic. Because I think that one way that can actually help you through this, in my experience, is finding other affirmations of love. Finding other languages that you can love, that you can share to show that love and that care. And that can really help. You need to work on keeping that bond. And do something really sweet. Be romantic. Find ways that you can discover each other more and learn more about each other, because that's going to help you through while this is happening.
I like that, and I would add on top of it, if you are able to view this as a challenge, and it may not be something that you can, get her aroused or get, she doesn't owe you sex. You may not be able to physically, get her to that point. But if you view it as I'm going to try anyways to be extra sweet, to do, things that turn her on emotionally.
Make it a video game. Make it an engineering problem of how,
it's almost,
make all your girlfriends jealous. Be like, how come you don't do that for me?
Yeah, she comes home and you've, made dinner and you have, flowers on the table and sweet notes, and you have some scavenger hunt that you're going to do as a date together, or you've done some like really kind, thoughtful thing. And then, you spend extra time with like foreplay or with, little ways that can kind of build that intimacy. And if you take it to the next level, like 10 times as thoughtful and sweet, learn what her love language is. And if you're really, really, really going the extra mile, that may be all that's needed. Now, I'm not saying it will be. I'm not saying it will be. It might not work. But
I mean, it's a good point, though. I mean, Freud talked about sublimation and this idea that, like, we have this sexual energy, and if we're not banging it out, it's going to go somewhere. He basically blamed the Industrial Revolution on British uptightness. So I don't know that that's necessarily true, but I do know that maybe this is an opportunity to take some of that energy and channel it.
Yeah.
Well, and also if during this period in time, if you really actually go the extra mile and make this relationship just 10 times as incredible for her, and, you know, she is appreciative of that and notices that and reciprocates it, then, like, not necessarily sexually, but then once you get through this stage, once, you know, if her libido comes back, then you've taken this time to really escalate things and to show her how much you care. And I mean, just wait and see.
Go through it together. Have that journey.
Thanks, guys. Well, you guys said a lot, and
yeah, it's a lot to wrap your mind around. I do love that we have 3 guys on the show, and when it comes to like strategies for women wanting to have sex with you, we're like, okay, I'm here for it. That you do this and this and this.
Well, yeah, I was kind of hoping there would be a woman on the show.
that's a good point.
Maybe I'll call back next week or in a week or two with an update and maybe get a feminine perspective. But
hey, that sounds great. And of course, feel free to shoot us an email. We'd love to hear what's working, what's not, how she feels. And yeah, please feel free, sex@atheist-community.org. We'd love to hear from you and keep the conversation going.
And hop in the live chat. We have a live chat full of women who have things to say about it. So hop in.
Hopefully it's not about how wrong we are.
I'm
someone in the chat,
only a percentage.
Someone in the chat wrote, gamify it, the connection, not the intercourse specifically.
Yeah.
I just leveled up and got 5 points added to my stamina.
So good luck to you, and let us know how it goes.
Can I just tell Thomas something real fast?
Oh, yeah.
Thomas, I'm a huge fan of Holy Kool-Aid, and I'm just wondering if you haven't done one, I didn't see one anywhere, are you going to do a video on the cosmological argument?
I have touched on the fine-tuning argument. I haven't really just done a video specifically on the cosmological, but I could. It's one of those things where it's an argument that's been so heavily beaten into the ground that I could provide my perspective. I'm not sure what new stuff I would offer, but I'm open to taking a look.
Cool. I just want one that I can just forward to people easily, like I've done with some of your other videos, to disabuse them of their weird ideas.
Okay.
Well, fair enough. I appreciate so much you calling, and yeah, I guess everybody should look for more content on YouTube from Holy Kool-Aid.
Thanks so much, guys.
Absolutely. You have a great night.
Bye.
All right, minor correction here. It's 5 points to charisma. If,
right.
If you
gamify your sex life,
right, definitely.
So anyway. do you still have to roll the 12-sided die for? I obviously don't know shit about games.
It's a D20, but that's okay.
My bad. All right.
No, you know what? I'm going to bring you under my wing. We're going to play some D&D.
Okay, bring it on. Bring it on.
Yeah.
All right.
See, here I thought we were talking about video games. I'm sitting with tabletoppers.
Oh, dude. Old school, man.
Welcome to the guys-only episode of Secular Sexuality.
My kind of gamer views your kind of gamer as nerds. Because,
having a throwdown.
Bring it.
All right.
Let's hear it in the live chat. Tabletop or
video game.
Or whatever he does.
Yeah. So let's jump into just one more call from somebody who I'm wondering might have some experience with tabletop gaming. So Frodo, you are on the line with Secular Sexuality.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
This is your moment to shine.
Well, I can definitely say I don't have any experience. I'm so sorry.
Misnomer on my part.
I'm a good fan of Lord of the Rings, and I've never played D&D though. I never have. So
you have yet to.
Are you a video gamer though?
I'm a little bit of one. I mean,
right, we were doing it together.
I have to be really
1 point for Team Thomas.
I'm going to try and stay centrist on this. So that being said, thank you for humoring us. What's on your mind today? What's going on?
All right, real quickly, first off, if I may, Eric, dude, I love you. You are amazing. You and Jamie do a great job on Talk Even.
Shout out to everybody else's shows.
Love you too. I like this guy.
Christy, you and Megan do a great job.
Oh, well, thank you.
Trying to get through every single episode that you guys have done.
Mm-hmm.
And then Thomas, I just got to say, I think it was the call with Darth Hawkins, I think. I feel you. I saw that video of you guys going back and forth, and I try not to be such a aggressive person, but I'm going to tell you right now, if I were right there with him, I would have punched him in the face and told him, shut the fuck up. But that's just me.
All right. Yeah. I think you're going to need to send me that link.
I've been on Talk Even 3 times now, and I'm still getting feedback just about that one call.
Yeah.
Like dude, you know what? Yeah. You know what? In my opinion, he, just like you said, he likes to interrupt every 5 seconds. I listen to the whole thing, and you were completely right in my opinion. So, but that's just my opinion.
Well, thanks. So, my finger was dancing around the mute button a few times.
Oh, dude, I would have done the same thing. Okay, so how to best go into this? So first off, to the screener, I'm very sorry because I felt like it was very hard to explain what I was going through. But
sure.
For you guys, so I'm an atheist. I've been an atheist since I think the end of last year, and me and my girlfriend, she's been a Christian her entire life. The only problem is her parents. Separate story, but her parents, I know for a fact, I don't think properly taught her sex education and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So every time that we have that conversation, hopefully I can get her to watch this. And if I can, honey, I love you and I'm sorry. I feel like they didn't teach her properly because there's a lot of stuff that we had to go through. Now, in the past, we have actually, we've tried a couple of things. She wants to wait until marriage for sex, and I completely understand. And I'm, in my words, I've had my quote unquote fun, and I'm completely willing because I love her and I want her to be happy. I want our relationship to work out, and if this is what needs to happen, then it's what needs to happen. I'm completely okay with that. But I've tried to get her to, for lack of a better word, and if I'm being a jackass, please let me know. For lack of a better word, I've been trying to grow her up, if that makes any sense. Like, I talked to her about a little bit about masturbation. I talked to her a little bit about, what women sometimes do to pleasure themselves. And then she's had questions for me, and I've tried my best to answer them completely. But I asked her, well, would it be the worst thing if we tried maybe like a little bit of foreplay? Like, you don't have to go all the way. We do not have to do that. But like, if I went down there beneath your pants or something like that, would that be wrong? She's let me go down there a little bit, but the other thing is she does not want to have it. She says she doesn't want to have an orgasm until marriage. And in my opinion, it's like, yeah, exactly. Like I just, whenever we get married,
I'm sure that wedding night will be like immediate attraction. Everything will go perfectly smoothly. She will have a vaginal orgasm almost immediately, and there won't be any learning curve or problems going in.
Well, see, that I thought about that, but the thing is she has what I think is called a hormonal imbalance that she's actually taken birth control for. Mm-hmm. Sure. I don't know if that. She's told me multiple times that it's working. Mm-hmm. And I think it's working because she says she gets turned on, but of course I can't read her mind, and I don't want to keep asking, hey, is this turning you on? What are you thinking? What are you doing?
Are you hot now? How about now?
Exactly, right? Yeah. Exactly. Like, are you getting turned on? What's going on? And then her say, would you shut up and just stop it, which never has she ever done that. But I'm kind of, I worry about it a little bit because my paranoia, which is kind of stupid, but my paranoia is on our wedding, like after we get married and once we're on our honeymoon and stuff, whenever we try it, what I told her is my worry is that we're going to be going at it, but you're not going to be able to get turned on enough. And then, you know, I would like to be able to do some foreplay because I like to give. I honestly don't really care about receiving. I like to give, and I don't want to go at least 15 to half an hour trying to figure out what turns her on just to figure out, oh, well, this isn't doing it. This isn't doing it. Like, okay, well, what is doing it? Because after a while, you know, you start to lose, I feel like you start to lose that momentum.
Well, you're going to get that issue whether it's the first time you have sex before or after your wedding night. You're going to have, you know, a learning curve. You're going to have time that you're trying to figure out what she's into and, you know, she's trying to figure out what you're into. What I'm more concerned about is, you know, and I wouldn't get your hopes up that the wedding night is just going to be sparks flying. It's going to be amazing. Like, honestly, my wedding night was shit. And no, it's fine. Like, you know, beforehand, we didn't go into it waiting till marriage, and we had some great sex before marriage, but it was just, there was all the stress from the wedding and getting everything set up and prepared. And then like we were driving off to our honeymoon that same night, and we stopped in a hotel and we were both exhausted, and we both, you know, been drinking some at the wedding, and we were just completely tired. And it was like, we're expected to suddenly have this Hollywood style, just, you know, the candles are just glowing and everything is, you know, spectacular. It's kind of a pipe dream. And I don't mean to say that to make you stress about it, but
lower that.
Almost
lower those expectations just a little bit.
Yeah, just so that there's not a lot of pressure on that one sexual experience, because that's the biggest thing that stood out for me. I think we're looking at a lot of different pieces here, and maybe pieces that really should be talked about with some sort of premarital counselor, because there is a lot to dive into. That being said, if we chunk it up a little bit, I want to let you know, I don't think we're into full-blown asshole territory. I think, though, that we're circling that train, and I want to recognize that there's reason for fear here. And I don't think that you're an asshole, and I'm not saying that in the least bit, but I do think that this is a situation that is going to lend itself to some pretty asshole-ish behavior that would be very human and reasonable to feel. Because, yeah, you are planning on building a life with somebody, you don't know about your sexual compatibility. All signs currently point towards perhaps not great, you know? And I don't know that that's true, and I'm not necessarily speaking that onto your relationship, but I would think that there's room for concern. I would be, you're telling me that you're feeling a little bit nervous. I think I'm telling you, be very nervous. Don't break up, don't force sex, don't make any crazy life decisions because an asshole stranger on the internet told you to. But I'm going to go ahead and ring that bell a little bit and flash some warning lights.
And I would, I'd say communication. Okay, communication.
We've had a lot of talks about, and like I said, I've tried not to bring it up so much because, again, with my personality, to be honest with you, she's the first woman in my life. We've dated 2 other times in the past, but overall, she's the first woman that I have never felt like she's going to ever cheat on me or anything like that. So I don't want to mess it up. But then again, can
I ask how old you are?
Well,
you what?
Can I ask how old you are?
Oh, I'm 25 and she is 23, about to be 24.
Yeah, so you're 25 and this is the first person that you've met that you feel isn't going to cheat on you.
Right.
You have a lot of life left and a lot of people that you'll encounter and that you'll meet. And if this relationship doesn't work out, there's going to be other people who aren't going to cheat on you. I keep running into people who think that they've found like the one, and that's just it's such a false notion. There are some people that are more and less compatible, and there are people who you find that are less compatible that you can really work at it and make the relationship work and become a wonderful, loving, perfect relationship. Well, perfect is a bit of a shoddy term.
There's no one. There's the 0.9 that we round up to 1, or the 0.4 that we round up to 1, depending on our expectations for ourselves.
But just because you found someone that you feel is, you know, they're not going to cheat on you, you're setting the bar kind of low if that's all you're looking for. There's a lot more to a relationship that makes it good and healthy and wonderful and amazing. And I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I wouldn't buy a car unless I test drive it. And I certainly wouldn't have a relationship where I get married to someone and I have no idea if we're sexually compatible or not. It's just...
Yeah, see, that's the thing. We've had, like I said, I've kind of heard that saying before, and no offense, I've tried to push it off because, you know, we both agree, and I think you touched on this a little bit earlier. I can't remember precisely, but sex isn't the only thing in the relationship, and in my personality, I've done everything to make sure that that's not the only thing. And even with, you know, everybody in my life, my coworkers, my friends, my family, well, okay, let's just say mainly my brother, that have asked me, you know, have you done this? Or, you know, have you gotten in their pants, blah, 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 any stupid ass shit like that. I've said, well, you know, that's no, but I mean, come on now.
Well, if this is the path that you're going to take, it is a very long one. And if you think this is going to take a few, you know, weeks or months, you're dead wrong. It's going to take a long, long time, and it's going to take a lot of patience, and it's going to take a lot of working together. And I think that you are, if this is the path that you want to take, you are setting yourself up well by opening yourself up and making yourself available to have these kinds of conversations that are open and accepting when it comes to sex. And it really, really does help. I know that just being that kind of person who's open in talking about sex is something that helps not even in the relationship that you're in. I've had more than one female friend who we wound up taking a field trip to the sex shop for a first sex toy because they're like, I don't know what, you know what, but you get there.
Wow.
You know,
when you said we took a road trip to the sex stop, I really thought that was going to be some kind of euphemism for like fooling around with a friend.
No.
It took me a moment. I apologize.
No.
We're talking about literally, that supportive role.
Yeah, it's about talking about, you know, masturbation is okay.
And
you know, and then eventually, well, I don't know. What if this? What if that? Well, do you want to go? I'll take you. Okay, cool. And we get the first toy, and then you know, a couple weeks later, I see them, and they're just like, the best day ever. You know,
and that could happen. That could happen. You could get married, and you know, she finds out that, oh my God, this is amazing, and she just wants to try anything and everything with you.
I would actually say do that well before you get married. You know, take your time. If this is what you want to do, just know it's a long road. It's going to take a long time. And you are well within your rights, just as my co-hosts have said, that if you decide that's not the path that you want to take, that does not make you an asshole.
The only thing I really want to tag on is I agree with everything Eric is saying about communication. I think that that's very important. But as we kind of hinted at with the last caller, the dynamic that I see over and over and over in couples therapy is the guy saying, well, we need to communicate more. We need to communicate more. And the woman is communicating that she doesn't want to be hassled about sex anymore. And the guy's like, but we need to communicate, which means that we're going to have very uncomfortable conversations where we both are just going to squirm, and I'm going to do all of the talking, and I'm going to beg you to talk, but you're not gonna. And instead of seeing that as a form of communication, I'm going to say, well, she just doesn't communicate. She's not trying to fix this. I'm all on my own here. And, you know, that is a dynamic that we see over and over and over again in our culture. I mean,
would you say that's almost a form of delusion?
You can, yeah, absolutely. You can take what I just said and
like they are the perfect person, but they just haven't really opened up and communicated that yet.
Right. If they would just tell me, I'm sure they would say exactly what I want to hear. I mean, we've basically, in the course of this conversation, written the pilot for a CBS sitcom, right? Like, this is the basic aspects of our sex in our culture. So I would very much warn you that while it's good to be available and it's good to communicate and it's good to stress communication, hear everything that they say. And silence says a lot. And
oh, God.
There's also value in recognizing that our sexual journeys may involve other people. And that can be really beautiful and exciting. I mean, I'm in an amazing relationship now where we're both introducing each other to crazy new things that we never thought we'd be interested in, and there's so much fun in that. But there needs to be two engines on two separate cars. You know, even if y'all are both headed in the same direction and you're going together, you can't give her your energy. You can't transfer your libido over to her. You need to trust her to be headed down the road that she wants to go on. And if she is pumping the brakes constantly, there's room for patience. There's room for kindness and acceptance. And, you know, we're not always going to be perfectly matched, like Thomas said. You know, there's no the one. But it might be worth noting that if she's just not interested and you're kind of dragging and towing her rather than following along with her, that's something to really take notice of. And all I can tell you is that if somebody had told me that at 25, my life would be very different. And I wish that I was calling into shows like this at 25. So again, I'm not suggesting that you need to break everything because a bunch of strangers on the internet started, you know, raising their warning lights. But I would really encourage you to listen to that silence, figure out what it means, ask her what it means, and keep it in mind and avoid that delusion that Thomas is mentioning.
And Shannon Q made a really good point in the chat just now. She said, perhaps have a more in-depth conversation to uncover why that's off limits. Why does she want to wait till marriage? Is it a thing that she's worried about what society thinks? It's a purity thing? If so, kind of break that down and explore it. If it's more of a libido thing, that may be an issue once you get married.
Well, and it's important to notice you said she's a Christian, but that can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. I mean, the Christians that I grew up with would definitely not marry atheists. So that Christianity, what her faith means to her, where that's coming from, what restrictions come with that, that's also an important conversation to be looking at, because it may mean that sex is only procreation forever and always. And that might be cool with you. It might not be.
Is she going to want to not use birth control and have 10 babies and only do the missionary position? And when you bust out of the bathroom like Tarzan on your wedding night, she's going to be freaked out and traumatized and scarred at like all of the freak stuff that you want to do? That's something to think about too.
Maybe not the Tarzan loincloth on the first one.
Hold on a second. I've got this mental image of Thomas now like Tarzan.
It was too specific to be improvised, right?
Right?
Yeah, that felt very telling.
Eugene.
She knows that I'm deeply. I can't say religiously, but she knows that I'm deeply into the Flash. So if anything, I'm gonna pop out of the room like I'm the Flash. I'm not gonna finish as fast as he might be, but I'm still the Flash, baby. That's what's going on.
Hey man,
you know,
2 seconds of heaven is better than 1 second of heaven.
Cheers on the Flash, man. That is an awesome character.
Is that Barry Allen Flash?
Yes.
We'll get into that later. But yeah, I know we just threw about 10,000 different things at you, but hopefully some of it sticks and starts bringing up the right questions for you.
Right. Yeah, like you said, this is definitely it's definitely conversations that I have to have with her. I mean, we've had conversations, but maybe we need to go a bit more in depth in it, and hopefully and perhaps maybe I should, again, like you said, without I'm not being an asshole, but then again, it would be important to talk about it and see what the actual reasoning is. Because I mean, she's given reasons, but I can't read her mind. But you know, it is what it is, I suppose. So
sure. Well, it's a lot to take on. Best of luck to you. Just keep going and remember that it's okay if things don't work out. It's great if they do. It's wonderful if they work out, but they aren't perfect because they're never gonna be, and that's cool too.
Right.
Sex is complicated.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, absolutely. You have a great night. Thanks so much for calling in. So I do want to point out, a friend of mine used to drive us crazy because he was just this incredible pool sharp, and he would always be trying to teach us stuff, and I have no coordination. And I remember getting very frustrated when he had showed me how to line up my shot and how to get it just right, and the ball went exactly where I didn't think it would. And I'm just sitting there getting frustrated, like, why doesn't this game follow the rules of physics? And he kind of laughs and he looks at me and he says, well, it does follow the rules of physics. It just follows all of them. You know, it's not just the simple geometry. There are some more sophisticated forces at work here that I might not be noticing. So when we talk about the importance of communication, it's not just talking, it's all of the communication. And, you know, of course, we want to say that good and healthy communication is largely verbal. There's not a lot of relying on mind reading and these different things. We want to encourage people to use their words like they're grown-ups. But it's important to listen to everything that people are saying. And if people are not wanting to talk to you about something, that they're saying something right there. So,
not to mention their facial reactions, their micro expressions, their you know, hesitations. There's so much. Most of our communication is not speaking. You know, and someone. Why do I hear a ice cream truck?
Okay, all right.
So
some technical difficulties.
So, you know, if someone is telling you that they have a, you know, oh yeah, I'm really, really into you and you really turn me on, and then, you know, maybe they're not really feeling it and you're doing things, you might be doing something wrong. You know, it's like, I'm really into you, but maybe don't use teeth. Could be a thing.
That's an important thing to be able to say. So yeah, communication covers all manner of sins, I suppose.
Or maybe don't use teeth there.
Okay, so as I mean, that was a little bit of a marathon sprint.
Yeah.
Easing back a little bit, I am very eager to hear from y'all. I'm going to let you start, Eric. What is your confession? What is the thing that you wish that you know, as a progressive, as somebody who cares about these important things, has started to realize you've had a blind spot?
This is the part of the show I've been looking forward to all night.
Okay. So for those of you in the audience, almost word for word, what Christy said was, what is something you didn't learn until way, way, way too late? And you might be embarrassed about, or that just you had no idea that it was your blind spot. And so here's confession time. Toxic masculinity, actually. And I really didn't learn about it until last year.
Okay. Yeah. So what does that mean for you? What's surprising?
So what happened was I was getting involved and, long story short, there was a tragedy that happened. There was someone who had killed themselves and killed their partner. And I recognized it as a tragedy, and it was something that really affected a lot of people that I deeply care about.
Sure.
And I was talking to Daryl Ray about it, and he said, you know, I really want to talk about toxic masculinity. And I didn't know what that was. For some reason, there's some part that just didn't learn about that.
Yeah.
And what I researched, what I found was, well, I mean, in this case, the idea that the man owns the relationship, this cultural idea that you own your partner or that you have the rights over another person's body is something that's so deeply ingrained that even after you leave faith, you don't realize that your society has informed these actions that are so fucking toxic.
Yeah.
You know, the idea that as a man, you know, you're not supposed to cry. You know, I had a partner tell me, you know, you're not supposed to cry, and I didn't cry for the better part of 6 years. I mean, the way that we treat each other, and I think that that's especially poignant having 3 dudes in front of the camera when we don't even realize that we're propping up these horrible things with each other. These ideas of what is, you know, a stereotypical masculinity. You know, what is it to be a man? You know, you have to, you know, forego having emotions. You can't cry. You have to have these ownership types of things, and just all of these different pieces that make up toxic masculinity, these pieces. I
mean, even just the way we all sat down at this table when we first got here, before having to realize, like, oh, okay, in order to get everybody on screen, we're going to have to squoosh in, because guys are just like pretty comfortable taking up space. Yeah. We're raised to feel a little bit entitled to a lot of room.
And so would you say, though, because I see this all over the internet where there's people pushing back against this notion of toxic masculinity, and it's almost like it's it's toxic to be a man, and it's all these, you know, misandristic man haters who are saying, you know, like,
in our society nowadays, it's illegal to be strong.
You can't be like, you know, bold or whatever.
That absolutely misses the point.
Not all masculinity is toxic, but toxic masculinity is everywhere.
And also, what an overreaction to say you can't be that when we live in a society that I just freaking learned that you can actually don't have to be that. You know, I meet all of these amazing people here at the ACA, and it seems like it's something that everybody I knew about, and I just didn't. You know, at what point, if I heard somebody say, "Oh, you can't do that anymore," I'm glad I didn't hear that before I learned about it, because I would have no freaking clue what was going on. Yeah. Not even learning about the idea of toxic masculinity in the first place, and then going on to say, "Oh no, we made this huge leap in the other direction." I see it everywhere.
It'd be like if someone said like, "Oh, real men don't cry," and you're like, "Actually, I'm a real man. I do whatever the fuck I want."
Seriously. I am a real man, and I you know, generally wear nail polish, and I have this, you know, long hair and this girly name, and you know, I get to be that kind of man. And toxic masculinity is the voice that says, like, no, you know, you got to toughen up. You got to be something else.
You have to abide by these societal norms, when the fact is we're learning more and more that on this spectrum, it doesn't even make sense. And to close yourself off entirely to your emotions and to other people, and to force yourself into a role when, you know, we've talked about this before. I think all three of us have pieces of nurturer and caregiver and kind. And I mean, knowing you two personally, you're two of the sweetest people I know, you know, and that doesn't necessarily fall in with, you know, what toxic masculinity is
allows.
Pushed out. Yeah. Yeah. And,
yeah, I was always taught to, you know, to behave as a gentleman, and part of that was respecting other people's choices. And if someone's choice, personal choice for how they carry themselves or how they dress or what they do, if it doesn't fall in line with what your preconceived notions and, you know, preconceptions of what it means to be their specific gender is, that's still their goddamn choice. Yeah. And that's still something that if you're actually going to behave like a decent human being, you accept and you acknowledge, and you know what? It doesn't affect you. Yeah. So it's, you know, I think where what I've kind of gathered from, you know, the internet's notion, the kind of mainstream, you know, triggered angry notion of, you know, oh, you're just, you know, misandristic, and you don't, you know, you think that to be masculine is to be toxic, versus what it actually is it's taking things like bullying and it's saying that's not healthy masculinity. That's a toxic side of these stereotypes of, you know, and masculinity.
It's like by criticizing anything that any man has ever done, you're suddenly saying that all men are bad. That's the message that 4chan is taking when they're, you know, calling everybody cucks and, you know, creating issues. I'm confident bringing in. I was just about to say the comment section is about to get real explosive around here.
Yeah, before we hit that, because I have a thing to say about that. But the first thing, kind of as a last piece on that, is we are teaching it to each other. I mean, it's not something that is coming from outside. You know, it's coming from men learning to bully other men. Yeah, and it's ridiculous. It's not
once
even that
men
we're being
learn how to be bullies
from the outside.
Once men learn how to be bullies, they bully women. You know, it's so
it's part
gross
of it.
And trite.
Part of it.
But toxic masculinity hurts men, and then hurt people. Yeah. So it does filter down is maybe a bizarre way of looking at it, but women are overwhelmingly affected by this as well, and it's devastating for the men who don't feel like they have a lot of choices, and for anybody who has to be around those men.
And I'm just going to tie this back to the secular and secular sexuality, that where I went to church, right? When you said your wedding vows, you were saying that the woman is to serve the husband and the husband is to lead the family. You know, you were actually putting it into a written structure that says, no, it is supposed to be like this. And so you've validated these notions of masculinity. And the whole cuck thing, man, you know what? Their kink is not my kink,
other episode,
but their kink is okay. Yeah. If somebody's into that, I cannot imagine somebody who's actually into that going online and being like, "Aw,
Yeah, well,
Why is that
it's
a
an
pejorative?
insult
You know what I
for
mean?
yeah. It's really used as an insult for anybody who would allow another man to take away their woman, because that's
some
what
people
women
are
are,
into
is
that.
possessions. Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean,
let them be into that. Why is that
we'll
pejorative?
mention
Let me just
Dr.
shatter-
David Lay in his books on the subject in the footnotes. But yeah, that's a real kink. But it's thrown around as a way of accusing somebody of being weak because they're letting their resources be pillaged by other men.
Let me
It's kink
shatter
shaming.
that. Let me shatter that misconception right here. Imagine for a second that there is a massive 6'8", 300-pound, built out UFC fighter. Nobody fucks with this guy, right? He's kind of the pinnacle of big.
I'm scared
tough,
to see where we're
right?
going with this.
Okay. But imagine
I'm a little
that,
excited to find out.
Imagine that this UFC fighter
Yeah.
has a cuck kink.
Okay.
And he's like, okay,
Cool.
if someone were to come into my bedroom and have sex with my wife, I could literally smash this person's face in and completely destroy them. Okay, this is in no ways a weak person. This is in no way someone who is, kind of a beta male, kind of weak, whatever. This is, but that's his thing. And he's like, you know what? Like, I love my wife. I trust my wife. Like, we're opening up the bedroom. We're having a good time. We're having fun. And, I am so confident and so secure in myself and in our relationship that I just get off to this. And, watching her get pleasure. Is that, how is the stereotype of cuck really doesn't fit that situation at all. It crumbles. Well, but that is an actual legitimate thing that I'm sure happens in many cases.
You've already spent more time thinking about this than most of the people that are screaming all caps beta male cuck bullshit on.
That's because I analyze everything.
Yeah, I mean, and
that's why I trust you as a person.
As soon as you bring in the idea that you don't own another person, you don't own them, you don't own their sex, you don't own their bodies, and what you want to do together as partners, what you want to do, with that relationship or the way that you want to express your sex is completely up to you, and that's absolutely fine. Which is always why it just kind of blew my mind. So I had to put a pin. I'm sorry I derailed the show, but I kind of had to stick a pin in that because
So by this same nature, someone said, can we not put endorsement of toxic masculinity exclusively on men, please? Like, there are elements of this that women can do as well.
Oh, yeah, it's society.
And I think that there are societal norms that are toxic for femininity as well.
Oh, yeah.
No. I mean, a quick trip to the grocery store checkout aisle will confirm all of that. Yeah. So yeah, these are big topics, but I think we're noticing that this is something that you've been maybe blind to, even if you've understood that women are just that men have very limited roles in society.
Yeah. So, okay.
All right. As we're getting closer and closer to time, I can't let Thomas walk out of here without telling me yours.
What is your confession?
So my confession, really, I blame on having missionary parents and dial-up internet.
All right. Some pixelated boobies in your past? Or where are we going?
Very slow.
So my upbringing when it comes to sex was very much of this narrow. If you have sex, you will get pregnant. If you get pregnant before marriage, there's a good chance you'll die or something, or if you get an abortion, you're going to die, or, condoms don't work. It was very, very, very shoddy sex ed. So the caller who was asking, or someone was asking earlier, as far as sex education goes, if there was some type of crash course for that, maybe I need to just make a video about sex ed for people in a hurry. But that was my upbringing. I had no clue. I didn't have the slightest clue. So when my dad sat me down and had the sex talk with me as a kid, and I had this idea that, okay, the man sticks his penis inside of a woman's vagina and then just the magic happens, okay? I had no idea the dynamics involved. I had no idea how any of that happened. So in my mind, there was no movement. You just kind of lay there flat.
Soaking.
Right? You just kind of, you stick it in and then just God makes, the stuff, just do its thing. Okay? So I remember watching the World Cup, or it was some, soccer game late at night, and, since I'm overseas, it's 2 in the morning. And that's when, they had uncensored TV and stuff. So I was watching the show, and all of a sudden there's boobies, and all of a sudden there's a sex scene. But it was a slow-mo sex scene, and the girl's boobs start jiggling, but they're just doing it in slow motion. So I was like, oh my God, when you stick your penis into a woman, her boobs
Makes
just
her
start
boobs
going
bounce.
like waves, just like it was like just this hydraulic like wave motion.
Yeah.
And so I'm like,
Like
whoa,
women
that's
are
what-
basically water beds.
And then to make matters worse, I only had dial-up internet, so I could never actually watch porn. It would just like get like these images that would load, you know, like they'd load like one line at a time. You know, you see like the pixels going across, and then yes, I got another line. I'm almost to the nipple. Just 5 more minutes, and then it disconnects, and you have to redial. It's like so you can forget about any kind of like actual video clip or any kind of, you know, actual porn to see like, oh, they're actually moving. And it wasn't until probably late, either late in high school or kind of mid to late high school when I realized that there's actual motion going on in sex and there's different positions. It was just, no, you just plop down, you kind of sit there and like the boobs do the wavy action and, you know, the sperm goes in the woman and she gets pregnant and first time you conceive, you know, and that's that. So yeah, I had a very, very backwards sex education. I've had to do a lot of research and catch up just to figure it out. But that's my confession. I don't think I've ever told that to anyone before until on air. So you're welcome.
Wow, thank you, man. I can't help but imagine that sex, like your idea of sex, just kept getting better and better and better over time. like it's just upgrading over time.
I was terrified because I had this notion that like if you have sex outside of marriage, like by the second or third time you'd have AIDS. Like it was just kind of this notion. It was just this fear-based idea was drilled into me. It's not
basically AIDS roulette. Yeah. Yikes.
So.
All right.
But to anyone who's watching this who is like, you know, oh, I had no sex ed growing up, don't worry. There are websites with lots of educational material. There are places where you can learn even if your parents were too prude to talk about it or if all that they talked about was the biblical side of it. There's a whole lot of information out there to be learned. You're not alone. So.
Yeah, I guess the too long didn't read on all of that is sex, kind of basically almost anything, definitely more than you're thinking right now.
Yes, and you're never too old to learn, and there shouldn't be shame in learning at whatever time you do.
No question. No question.
Shannon Q wrote, LimeWire changed my life. That was actually how I learned about sex.
Oh my gosh.
Was LimeWire.
Yeah,
because my parents.
Dude, yes.
Yeah.
My parents put Covenant Eyes on my computer, which was software that saw
I had like a nanny monitor thing.
Nanny bot. Yeah. And it would see what websites you went to. But LimeWire was encrypted. So all you would see is LimeWire file dot whatever. And I was like, this is amazing. I found a way around Covenant Eyes.
I'm hacking.
I just go online, dial up, you know, and like 2 in the morning. And then by morning time, I'd have this, you know, very pixelated, you know, 20 megabyte file that would download. It's like, I think that's a boob.
Oh my gosh, I can imagine young you as like a 90s hacker, you know, just, you know, typing away, hammering at the keys, sweating, just.
Oh, amazing. I didn't learn how to program till college.
Young Hugh Jackman. Yeah, I love it.
Nice, nice. All right. Well, so much to tackle there. I honestly wouldn't even know where to start. So I'm just going to pivot.
Hey.
I think. Oh,
before you do, don't ever go on LimeWire and download porn.exe. That's a different kind of virus. So. Yeah, although I don't think LimeWire is on
I was
anymore.
about to say, that feels very specific for an audience that really hasn't existed since like 2007.
Well before,
I think a like very specific dog whistle for anybody who ever downloaded iDeepThroat or Heather iDeepThroat. Same kind of similar problem. I read in a magazine once. And moving on, we would like to hear from Astrid. Astrid, you are live on the air. What's on your mind?
Hi there. Well, I just called in going to talk about the subject, but I wanted to say that I can kind of relate to like not being able to watch porn. I watched the American Pie movie. I hacked our Comcast, so that was my first
Shannon
experience.
Doherty, yeah.
Yeah, but I wanted to speak about this goes into the LGBTQ plus thing. Representation in media, and also, are we pushing on other characters to turn them into LGBTQ plus icons? Because I think instead of people asking for amazing characters with depth and, you know, real people, not Mary Sue's, not caricatures, we're more inclined to turn characters what we want them to be.
Okay, yeah. Tell me a little bit more about how you mean. Say that again.
Well, I thought about calling it in today because I had just watched the trailer for season 3 of Stranger Things. And then I went on Twitter to write something about it. And I saw from one of my people I follow on Twitter that they were remarking that, oh, it's so cute that 11 and Max are like girlfriends now. And I'm like, you mean like best friends, right? And they're like, no, she's totally going to leave mics for him and her. And I'm like, why are you doing this? You know, why can't we just have our ships and not push on people, you know? And like, why don't we demand for better characters to be made? I mean, I'm asexual, and I'd love to see an asexual character that's not just, you know, made fun of for like, oh, you don't like sex.
Sure.
What's wrong with you? But like, I've noticed it with a lot of things lately, and fandoms are kind of getting out of control with it.
So you're feeling like people are just kind of awkwardly grafting on, you know, queer representation rather than sort of organically developing these sophisticated characters that have that as part of their identity. Am I kind of getting what you're saying?
Yes, yes. And I think that it's really getting to a point where I think fandom people and people on Twitter, of course, which I really should just delete that thing. It's such a headache. It's kind of infuriating, some of the people on there. But like, I've seen, you know, I went to a Comic-Con and they had to shut down one of the panels because they kept talking about the sun shipping, and they're like, we're not doing that. And then people got mad, and it's like, whoa, people, I mean, you know, I get we want representation, but we want correct representation. You know, I mean, do you want a studio to be like, yes, we're bringing out a gay character, and then he's one of those, you know, stereotypical, you know, very fey, like, you know, twists his wrist, and is like, oh yeah, girl, you know.
Well, so if I'm hearing you correctly, it doesn't sound like your issue is necessarily that there are gay characters represented in Hollywood so much as the fact that it's shitty writing and it's just kind of slapped on for the sake of having the token gay character. Is that correct?
Yes, that is exactly.
I mean, shitty writing is shitty writing.
Normal.
Well, I think that actually follows the exact same line that we've had every single time we've brought a new group on TV. You know, I particularly noticed it with Latinos because I'm part Latino, you know, and so early representations of Latinos in TV and movies was you'd have, you know, Ricky Ricardo, right, and you'd have Speedy Gonzalez, and Slowpoke Jones,
you
know, and
bad stereotypes,
and you know, and it took a long time, right? You'd have these portrayals of black people in this entire '70s blaxploitation movement, right? And then you go into the '90s, right, and you start to see that society's getting more conscious of of gay people. Right, and so you have, you know, Will and Grace, and you have
I mean, honestly,
really
even like
stereotypes.
The Ellen Show and Will and Grace have some problematic moments.
They really do.
When you go back and look at them now, I totally agree with what you're saying. I think that you can tell somebody's age, you can tell particularly a gay man's age by their reaction to the birdcage. I've seen this with a ton of folks. Some who were so excited to just be, you know, in a movie at all in that sense, and others who were like, this is bullshit, this is ridiculous, this is not who we are and how we are. And so I see it as a growing pain, I think.
That's what I was going to say. My hope is that it follows that same pattern, Astrid, and that we start with the representation. You know, and as we move forward, and we have more people represented with the LGBTQIA movement, that we're going to demand better writers. But having them in the first place is that first peak of social consciousness, is having society go, oh, these are people, you know, and we've all, you know, seen that. And so I'm hoping that it follows the same way that it did for all of those others. And I know that it can be frustrating, and you want to just kind of fast forward to the part where we don't have to deal with the bullshit, you know, which I totally get.
Yeah, exactly.
But
society and Hollywood go through a phase of natural selection in a way where it is a capitalist market, you know, free market system where if it's horrible writing and it's horribly directed and produced and stuff, it's low budget, it's probably going to fail in the box office. It's probably not going to get a sequel. But you're going to have phases where when something's new, initially it's just pushing the Overton window, and you have these shock value where it's, oh my goodness, there was actually a gay character, or there were two gay people that kissed in this movie.
God, yeah.
And then you're going to have these movies that actually really have an impact. You know, you look at movies like Brokeback Mountain versus, you know, something that's just kind of like, we'll just throw it out there just to have a gay character.
People made fun of at the time. I mean, I had a friend in college that bought a Brokeback Mountain wall calendar for another friend as a gag gift about, ha ha ha, you're gay. Yeah. So even then there was that, you know, beginning to open up and beginning to get representation, but there's a lot of growing pains. As a humanist, I get excited when I see more and more queer folks on TV, but as a human being, I also get really pissed off when it's like you're saying, when it's really thin, when it's, you know, not genuine or well done, and it does feel like they just, at the last minute, were like, that person's gay. I mean, you know, we talk about like J.K. Rowling's, if we want to make, if we want to just go ahead and offend the rest of the internet, the parts that we haven't already pissed off tonight, let's talk about the fact that J.K. Rowling's had how many gorbillion pages and opportunities to write all of these things, and then as soon as she was done and put it out into the world, she was like, oh, right, I'm progressive, and Dumbledore was gay, and, you know, all of these other things had to have happened, and it's just... It's upsetting. It is frustrating, but it does, in my mind, mean that we're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
But still, call out the bullshit. Yeah. I approve of that. Your anger is well placed, and I think I support it.
Yeah, I think of...
because, I mean, if they had a character on Stranger Things who was gay, and that's fine, and, like, I'm tired of people trying to, like, make characters what they want. You know,
and you're going to have to deal with so much more bullshit before it gets better.
Yeah, I mean, Captain Marvel's still dominating the box office. If we want to talk about toxic fandom and people's expectations of what a movie character can and can't be and all of these things, obviously there's a long road to hoe.
But push the window, push that envelope. I'm glad that you're being angry, because it's going to take society moving forward and moving in that direction to get there. It's just, it's a slow process.
I'm still waiting for the first DC movie where they suddenly do a reveal and find out that Batman's a woman.
I'm waiting for DC to apologize for what they did in their comics, because no.
Or how about their movies? Oh man, okay, sorry.
No. There was this anti-gay whole thing, and a staff quit, and I never got over it. So anyway,
yeah, no, I
DC. Oh, I'll never buy anything DC ever again. Yeah. We'll talk about it afterward.
Yeah, I mean...
I'm mega nerd.
The only...
No idea.
I think the only graphic novel I read a couple, but The Watchmen.
So, yeah, I think that as soon as this show's over, I'm going to have to moderate a nerd fight. So thank you for that, Astrid. Really appreciate you calling in and bringing up these issues, which are very real. You know, I'll say again, I feel like we're headed in the right direction, but I also think we're only headed in the right direction because people are getting angry at the appropriate moments. Your anger to me sounds very appropriate, so I encourage it. Let's fan those flames.
Cheers.
Oh, thank you. And I was going to say to people that, I mean, it may not be 100% accurate representation, but they are doing this scene in It Chapter 2 with Adrian Mellon and his boyfriend. So we'll have, and he's actually played by a gay actor.
Cheers.
So that's really cool.
Nice.
More gay sex in Hollywood. All right.
And we will take back like steps backward too. I think.
Oh,
think
no
about
question.
The Last Samurai was a white dude.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
That's a race thing.
Yeah.
We're
and
still dealing with race.
How long
Like,
after the Last of the Mohicans? And
How long is it going to take for us to, as a society, to get over race? It's going to take forever. You know what? I have enough about. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to school you on comics.
Okay.
You have no idea.
Nerd fight coming up
by a tabletop.
I'm going to say thank you to Astrid before I
thank you, Astrid.
Keep it apart, boys. We just got to keep it together for a few more minutes. Thank you so much and have a great night.
Thank you.
All right. So this feels like a really good moment to mention that next week, Megan will be back with us. We'll also be joined by the wonderful Serafina Smith, where we will be talking about representation in Hollywood, where we will be talking about the movies that impacted us and how seeing somebody who looks like you, who has sex like you, who loves like you on screen can be incredibly valuable and transformative. So I think this is super important.
I don't think I've ever
stuff.
seen anyone have sex like me on Hollywood camera.
That's more like a dark web thing.
That's
it's a very niche interest.
Dark side of the internet.
Oh my goodness!
Well, not everybody's into Tarzan.
The Tarzan
stuff.
How I have managed to keep this thing on the wheels without Megan, with these two assholes to either side, I don't even know it, but we've still managed to make it to the end of the episode.
And there's still people watching.
Yeah, hey, I don't know how it happened, but we are grateful that you're out there.
Absolutely.
We, of course, want to keep the conversation going. Eric, of course, you can find on a number of ACA wonderful shows, Talk Heathen in particular. Our communications director, Thomas, of course, is going to be on YouTube as Holy Kool-Aid. You can find me on Instagram or on my website at Valence Counseling. And until then, I guess we just want to thank everybody for joining us. Encourage y'all to continue to send those emails, bring up the topics you want to talk about. There are so many people we talked to on the phone tonight that I'd love to hear kind of the follow-up, what that looked like. And so please send us those emails. And in the meantime, I guess we just want to remind everybody that whether you're a Marvel fan or a DC fan.
And wrong.
Hey, Batman's an atheist, okay?
Yeah, well, he's part of the wrong universe, so we're just going
to... I am going to go, I guess, fill up a mud pit and watch these two wrestle out their toxic masculinity and their nerd fights. And until then, we just want to wish everybody an opportunity to give yourself a big ol' orgasm. Or, better yet, give somebody else one.